Okay, I just have a quick tip. Several people have told me lately that they really didn't know much about gardening, and so what I thought I would do is just give a little quick tip about planting tomatoes. Most everybody loves tomatoes. And so I thought I'd let you look over my shoulder here as I do some transplanting. These tomatoes here, I started in little bitty squares that, I don't know, maybe a inch and a half or so across, and I planted them in these bigger pots by twos, the same kind of tomato. I've never grown this variety. It's called Millionaire. But I got the seeds from Baker Creek, and I thought I'd give them a try. I really like the description. But I want to give you a tip about repotting tomatoes whenever you plant them. These are not leggy. They have a good, strong, stout stem. And the reason for that, even though I take them inside at night, is because of a way that I transplanted them when I put them in these bigger pots. And I'm gonna divide these, and I'm gonna do the same thing whenever I move one of them over into this pot. I just put a few tomatoes out in the garden, so I've got some empty pots now. So I'm gonna give my tomatoes a little bit more leg room because I'm gonna put these out a little bit later. It's still a little bit early in the season, but I'm kind of pressing the envelope a little bit. And the ones that I put in the garden, I cover at night with a low tunnel. And I want to see how they do, and I'm kind of keeping records on different varieties and how they do because I'm not familiar with the varieties that I'm planting, all of them this year. Some of them I know, but most of them I don't. So it's the nature of a tomato plant that if it does get leggy, a lot of times you can help it to recover from that legginess or having a long and thin stem. That comes from trying to grow plants in a windowsill that does not give adequate light. But with tomato plants, a lot of times you can help them to recover from that, and I want to show you how. It's the nature of a tomato plant that it will grow roots all the way up this stem. And so what you can do, again, this one is not leggy. It's got a good stout solid stem here, but I always plant my tomatoes this way regardless of whether or not it's leggy, but this can help it to recover. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take one of these tomatoes out and I'm going to put it in this pot. I've kind of channeled out a little bit of a channel in here, and I am going to take off the bottom. I think I'll move this one. I'm going to take off these bottom leaves. I may only take this one off right here, but I'm going to take it off and I'm going to actually plant this thing way up here. You can do that either by just planting it deep, or you can actually lay it down sideways. I'm going to lay it down sideways to show you what I'm talking about with tomato plants, something that you can do. I'm just going to take my hand and reach down in there and divide the roots, and I'm going to pull this one out. I always try to be quick whenever I transplant. So I've got my little plant. You can see some of the little root hairs sticking out, and I'm going to take this lower leaf off, like I said, just pinch it right off with my fingernail. And then I'm going to actually lay this plant down in that trench. In this, I hope it's showing up. I'm actually going to lay it down in the trench and just cover it all the way up to those bottom leaves and just support it so that just those top leaves are sticking up. And it looks like this is kind of rough on this, but I'll tell you what, I did these with these whenever I transplanted them from the smaller pots. And you can see how stout these root stems are. They're very stout. The plants are in good condition. And I'm going to go ahead whenever I put these out in the garden, and I'm just going to plant them all the way up to here. That's going to give me roots all the way up and down this stem here, and it actually makes for a stronger tomato plant. So that's the tip of the week on planting tomatoes or transplanting them. Always, by the way, when you transplant, always water it in. That helps to settle the soil around the roots. And plants don't like to be transplanted necessarily, but if you do it on a day like today, it was kind of cloudy, a little cooler, and water it in well, and a lot of times right after you transplant them, provide a little shade. It helps them to survive the transplant a little better. And another thing, just real quick, instead of spending money on these stakes like this. These were actually from when we lived in Bismarck. We had to put vertical blinds in our house, and they had to trim them to size. And I told the guy at the store I wanted the strips that were cut off the end, and I just cut these into strips and use them to label my plants. So that's it. See you on the next video.